Thank you. Thank you. Oh, please, don't. No. You have no idea how nervous I get when people stand up when I'm introduced. I thought you were getting up to leave. I really appreciate that wonderful introduction, Pat, and I think it's important for you to understand it. I don't think there's anything wrong with making money as long as you do it honestly and spend it judiciously. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and Pat did play for me, and I got to tell you, you have certain confidence in different athletes. When I saw Pat on the field, I knew we were going to win the game because we had to be so damn far ahead of anybody else for me to even put them in the game. But, you know, I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Matter of fact, not many people know it, but last June 22nd, my house burned to the ground. A week before it burned to the ground, I said to my wife, "Do you ever think we live in a house that's beautiful?" And she said, "This house doesn't belong to us, it belongs to God." She said, "Everything we have belongs to God." My wife's very religiously, so the house is burning. I'm saying, "God, your house is on fire. You ought to do something about it." So I'm the first homeless man to ever win this award, and I accept it very humbly. But I think it's also important for you to understand a little bit about my background before I talk. I was born in the Depression. My dad had gone to the third grade. That was the most education he had. I was born in a cellar by Dr. McGraw. We lived in a cellar for 7.5 years. We had one bedroom for my sister, myself, and my parents, a kitchen and a half bath. There wasn't a tub, a shower, or sink in that bath. There was no welfare, there was no food stamp, there was no safety nets. We lived there for 7.5 years, but I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth because I was born in this country. And I was taught by my parents. And if I'm willing to work hard and make good choices and get an education and value the importance of life. The other thing my parents taught me is we'll take care of you when you're young. And you'll take care of us when we're old, and that's sort of the obligation we should have. Parents take care of you young, and the government will put you in jail if you don't take care of your children. But the children also have an obligation to their parents, but we have an obligation to this country. We have an obligation to other people. I'm delighted to be here to honor Phyllis. She has done so much. The one question I would ask our football team all the time, Pat, if you didn't show up, who would miss you and why? If you didn't go home, would anybody miss you? And if they did, why? If you didn't go to work, would anybody miss you and why? I want to promise you, had Phyllis and other people like her not shown up, there are millions of babies that certainly would have missed her. And we're here because we do make a difference in people's lives. I think that we have to remember certain things. Number one, be proud, be brave, be confident knowing we are the good guys. We don't need to apologize. We're the ones that are doing God's work. We're the ones that are trying to save innocent babies' lives. And you have to remember this also. The true life centers don't get money from the government like Planned Parenthood. And we have to continue to support this cause. If there's no money, there's no mission. And you think about it. 4.4 million abortions, and one person gets to decide that that's going to happen. Who speaks for the baby? The baby has no voice. That's why we're here. And you know, do not be intimidated by the politicians, by Planned Parenthood, and by the media. Be proud of what we're doing because we are doing the right thing. And I get tired of hearing people apologize. Well, that's unpopular. I think we have an opportunity to serve the women of this country by supporting them, by encouraging them, and by educating them. And that takes an awful lot of hard work. Fetus, the word fetus, the Latin translation of that is unborn child. Not massive tissue, basically unborn child. A lot of people in this world can be successful. Oh, a lot of people can make a lot of money. Oh, that's great. But by you being here, you're significant, and that's far more important. And significant is when you help other people, and particularly other people that can help themselves. Life's a matter of choices. Whatever happens to you, good or bad, it's because of choices you make. Choose to do drugs, drop out of school, join a gang, have 5 children out of wedlock, get tattoos from head to bottom. You're choosing to have difficulty in life, and stop blaming me for the choices you make. I didn't make those choices. You make them, and let's go live with them. It isn't complicated. But let's remember this. The baby has no choice. The unborn child has no choice. Everybody else can talk about what they want, but we are here to speak for the unborn child. And that's why people like Phyllis, the Republican Party, we are the voice for the unborn child that can't speak for itself. And once that we understand and continue to do how important it is, I think it's important that we win. I think it's important we win this election for a lot of reasons, but you can also start with the Supreme Court. You think about the Supreme Court and the decision's going to come down, it's difficult. And people say, well, we have a problem in the Republican Party. We aren't unified. I don't know about that. I do know this. I hope we don't have a problem. The only time you have a problem is if you have 2 different objectives. If one wants to make the country great and somebody else wants to maintain power, that's a problem because you got 2 objectives. But if we have one objective, and that's the people of this country, like we have one objective to speak for the unborn child, that's critical. That's not a problem. We may have a difference of opinion of how to do it, but we have no problem. And I cannot understand why anybody in this world would not have the same objective. See, I was an officer in the Army, and I want to tell you, I got to tell you, I learned more in the military than I ever learned in the college classroom. I've been to Iraq for 8 days. I went to Afghanistan 2 summers ago. Wore a 35-pound flak jacket, helmet, traveled by Black Hawk helicopter all over Afghanistan in the mountains. Had an expert rifleman with me the whole time. I came back, my wife said, were you ever scared? I said, not till I landed in Chicago. That's the only time. But I do look at things a little bit differently. They give me this questionnaire before I can go, and all these questions. One of them was, who to contact in case of an emergency? I put down a doctor. Don't call my wife. She can't call a doctor. It's an emergency. Good Lord knows. But let me tell you how I think we can win this election, and how I think we can win this battle on abortion. And it's not very complicated because I'm not very smart. I went to school predominantly to eat my lunch. There was no other reason. I finished in the lower third of my high school class. That's a fact. If it was not for people like me, there could have been no upper half of the class. Somebody said, well, you've written 3 New York Times best-selling books. That is true. You're listening to the only guy in the world that's written more books than he has read. And I bring that up to you so that you understand who I am. I'm not a great athlete. I talk about golf. I belong to Augusta. I'm not a great golfer, but I'm not a great athlete. I live in Orlando. I was playing golf with Arnold Palmer several years ago, and I was so nervous. I played so badly, we lost money. We're in the locker room after. I said, gee, Arnie, I'm sorry I never played that bad before. He said, oh, you played before, have you? So I understand this is a simple guy here is going to express things I believe, but we complicate life. We don't need to. Let me tell you something. Do you realize there are only 7 colors of the rainbow? But look what Michelangelo did with them. Do you realize that there are only 7 musical notes? Look what Beethoven did with them. Do you realize there are only 10 numbers? Look what Bernie Madoff did with those 10 numbers. So that means it's always good, but we don't complicate life. I want to just say this, that here's how I believe that we can win. We got to make sure that we understand, without a doubt, that every voter asks 3 questions. There's 3 questions everybody asks. Don't complicate life. The 3 questions that they must answer yes about is question number 1, can I trust you? Can I trust the politicians? Can I trust you to do what you're going to say? Can I trust you? And there's only one way you can generate trust, and that's to do the right thing. And what I see happen so many times is certain people on the other side don't do the right thing, and we're too afraid to call them out on it. Oh, we can't say that because they'll think we're nasty. We must convince the voters that they can trust us and just do the right thing. There's never a right time to do the wrong thing. There's never a wrong time to do the right thing. It's just simple. For example, I do not think it's right. There's no way in this world you convince me that it's right when we have people say you can keep your doctor when they know it's an out-and-out lie. I don't think it's right when somebody says, oh, the IRS would never do that to conservatives. Now I'm going to get to the bottom of it, and they do everything covered up. That's not right. We let them get away with it. I have one server, and I never used anything confidential. Oh, well, don't call her a liar. Oh, no, can't do that, because people might think ill of it. We must get the voters to understand the difference between right and wrong. As I tell the team, I do not think it's right to find a teammate's wallet before he lost it. It's called stealing, son. I do not think, so when you look at it, I just don't think it's right to say you're going to support somebody and you don't. Why would you do that? That's breaking a promise. Let's just make sure that we do the right thing. But by the same token, when people do not do the right thing, do not be afraid to call them out and show the voters that they cannot be trusted on what they say and what they're going to do. And they think, well, if I tell a lie enough, it'll go away. And we let them get away with that. We cannot do that because unless the voters understand that they can't trust somebody and they can trust the other people, that's where you go. I think the second question everybody asks, and this is important, are you committed to excellence? Do you want to be good? People say, well, Donald Trump, I don't like what he said. Oh, okay, I understand that. But let's look at the options. Are you committed to excellence? You ever been to Donald Trump golf course? It's first class. You ever been to the hotels? First class. I don't know what kind of president will be, but I know where we are at the present time. Let me give you a few facts that when you really look at it, do you realize that I don't think it's right for 47% of people who pay no taxes trying to determine how much I have to pay? I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. But are you committed to excellence? Where are we? Okay. I don't think it's right also to send your children to a private school because you can afford it and then get rid of the vouchers for the poor people who can't, because without an education, people are fighting an uphill struggle. That is not right. And why do we let them get away with it? Because of the unions. Oh, well, don't speak up on it. It's time you had enough courage to speak up and say it. I'm going to do the right thing. Let me tell you where we are now. We have more people on poverty than we have in the last 8 years. We have more people on welfare. We have more people on food stamps. We have less people in the workforce than we had in the last 40 years, and we have hundreds of thousands more people in the country. How does that happen? We have less people in the military than we've had since 1940. We have a $20 trillion debt, and it's only going to get higher. We look at the Supreme Court. The income of the average family is decreased. Let's look at the education of our country. Do you realize 80% of third graders cannot score on the national average in reading, math, and science? We're now like on the average like 27th in the country education-wise, and we spend thousands more dollars than anybody else does per student. And why is it that we spend $4.50 for every senior citizen over what we spend for our children? We need to educate our children and but we got to hold people accountable that are there. We don't hold people accountable in the government. And then, of course, you look at the foreign policy. Oh, foreign policy, that's one of our great things. We have civil war in Libya, civil war in Syria and Yemen. We have ISIS killing more people, thousands more each and every year than they did the preceding year. We look at what happened in Afghanistan, where the Taliban is now coming back. You look at Iraq, which is a crisis because you have the Sunnis and the Shiites killing one another. Russia, flexist Muslims take over the Crimea and nothing happens. You look at Iran, breaks the treaty, sending missiles up, spreading misery and terrorism around, but nothing's done. And then, of course, you look at China and the China Sea. Oh, so you look at that and say, oh, that's great. Well, I don't like what Donald Trump said, so I want more of this. I mean, I'm not very smart, but good Lord knows I can't be that dumb. So I just want somebody who wants to be committed to making this country great and will do what it needs to be done, because where we are is not good. But I will say this. I love President Obama as a father, as a husband, as a role model. You cannot deny that. He's done it with class. His policies are wrong and it's hurting this country. But I don't believe he's done it intentionally. But the fact is, Hillary Clinton wants a third term of these policies, and I don't think our grandchildren can afford that. The last question everybody asks, and it's important. Do you care about me? I want to know, do you care about me? Do you care about the difficulties I have and the things I have to do? Or do you care about me because I pay taxes, etc.? Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people make a living by the way they vote. 47% of the people make a living by the way they vote. 1 in 5 families in this country does not have a working member in that family. Now, people can make a living by the way they vote, but they can't make a life. And what we have to do is show them how we can help them make a life. I don't know why it is, and I get ready to close here. I don't know why it is that we want people to be dependent on the government. Oh, that's great. We got to show the people, yeah, you can make a living by voting, but it's not a life. And you don't teach your children to be dependent upon you your entire life. You teach them to be independent. You help people by teaching them how they can help themselves. I think that love and understanding. I had 7 athletes at Notre Dame last year I'm very proud of. I want to point out what they accomplished. And it's not Pat Fallon, although you might. I had 2 players enter into the NFL Hall of Fame last year. Tim Brown and Jerome Bettis. That's great. Same year, I had 3 athletes added to the Notre Dame football staff. Autry Denson, a running back, and coaches them, and Todd Light, defensive back, and Jeff Burris. And last year, I had 2 players I coached at Notre Dame added to the Board of Trustees at the University of Notre Dame. Now, that's impressive. A young man by the name of Byron Spruill, who was number 3 in Deloitte Touche, just took over as president of the NBA. And Rod West, who's vice president of Arkansas Power and Louisiana Gas, added to the Board of Trustees. All 7 of them are Afro-Americans. I'm not taking credit for it. They're parents. But they learned that if they made good choices, and they would be held accountable for the choices they make, that great things could happen. These are people. See, we preach to the choir. We need to go into the inner cities in Chicago and Detroit and Baltimore. If somebody asked me to do it, I'd be happy to go do it. Let's teach people how to be successful and what we're all about, and we genuinely care about them. But because we let other people get away with it because we don't have the courage to stand up and say that's wrong, the same it is when we talk about abortion. I have a wife. She's a beautiful person. We've been married 55 years this Friday. We're opposite night and day. She said opposites attract and then attack, and that's probably true. But she and I are completely opposite. She's done 1 interview in her life. See, she's a stage 4 cancer survivor. And they gave her 10% chance to live. And Her weight went from 129 to 89. I don't pray for her anymore. I pray to her. I mean, she's truly insane. She left me a note and said, Lou, I can't please everybody in the world, so I'm going to stop trying. And I'm going to focus on pleasing one person a day. Today's not your day, and tomorrow doesn't look real promising either. But I got to tell you, I was playing golf, and I said, yeah, I've been married 52 years to my best friend. The guy said, your wife's not your best friend. I said, oh, yes. He said, no, your dog is. I said, you're out of your mind. He said, well, try this. He said, you go home and you lock your wife and your dog in the trunk of the car, come back in 2 hours and see which one's happy to see you. So maybe that is the case. But my wife has done one interview in her entire life, and that's because it had to do with cancer. They asked her, they said, what'd you learn from having cancer? She said, I learned how much my family loved me. We didn't love her anymore. We just showed it. Why is it we have to wait for somebody to have a catastrophe before we reach out, say we care? When Pat was up here, I looked at his ring. He's wearing the championship ring. The day we were at the White House with President Reagan, that night a young man named Bobby Satterfield died. He died at 1 o'clock in the morning of a congenital heart defect. He's at the White House in the afternoon. He's dead that night. Not a trace of drugs or alcohol in his body. So I had the operator call every football player and say, I want a team meeting at 7:30 in the morning. I wanted to tell them that we had lost a teammate. They came in, they were in a great mood. They thought I was going to resign. Why else would you have a coach? When I told them Bobby Satterfield had died, one young man passed out. Many wept openly. If you're in that room, you couldn't tell if Bobby Satterfield was white or black. You couldn't tell if he was offense or defense, first team or third, scholarship, non-scholarship, whether he's from California or New York. What you could tell, they loved Bobby Satterfield. Bobby Satterfield was a third-string defensive back from California, a walk-on. An individual didn't play a great deal, wasn't a star. Millions of people knew who our stars were, but the players knew who he was. That was a love and a feeling. That's what we need in this country. We need this country to understand other people and to care about them. What holds a country together are the core values. And what are our core values? I don't know. We talk about immigration. 13 million immigrants. That's not illegal. That's an invasion. But my four grandparents came over from the foreign country. They all went through Ellis Island. And I remember when my dad went to war during World War II, we moved to East Liverpool to live with my grandparents while my dad was in the service. And they were from Chernobyl in Ukraine. And when they didn't want me to understand something, they would speak in Ukraine. I said, Grandma, teach me Ukraine. She said, you don't live in Ukraine. You live here. You learn to speak English. That's the only language you need to know. I feel the same way about immigration. Not hard. Hey, come here. Welcome. Come here legally, but come here to become us. I don't want to become you. I don't want to speak your language. I don't want to celebrate your holidays. I sure as hell don't want to cheer for your soccer team. We complicate life, make it simple, but those are the only 3 rules that I've ever needed. I never need anything else other than that. Now, my wife said, how can you talk about loving and caring about people when you have a bumper sticker on our car? I have a bumper sticker on our car. We go to church, and I have to pull into the back of the parking lot and back in because my wife's embarrassed about it. But the bumper sticker is for certain people that I play golf with. It says, Jesus loves you. Everybody else thinks you're an asshole. That's what the bumper sticker says. I'm proud of that bumper sticker. Now, there's no such thing as magic. I was doing a little magic trick for you, but the time's running out. But I'm just proud and honored to be here with people that care about young people and are trying to help speak for the babies that cannot speak for themselves. And Phyllis, you've been a beautiful young lady. We've been on boards together. I'm a great fan of yours. It's just an honor to be here. And thank you so much. And remember, no money, no mission. And we don't get money from the government. So I thank you, and I leave you with this very last thought. Want to be happy for an hour? Eat a steak. Want to be happy for a day? Play golf. Want to be happy for a week? Go on a cruise. Now, to me, going on a cruise like being in jail, except you have a chance to drown, but that's what you want to do. Want to be happy for a month? Buy a new car. Want to be happy for a year? Win the lottery. Want to be happy for a lifetime? Make sure people would miss you if you didn't show up, because the people we miss are those that add value to other people's lives. And let's hold people accountable for doing the right thing, doing the best they can, and showing people you care. And one last thing, Jerry Faust, you're one of the great people that I know, and I say that to you sincerely. I'm a great fan of yours. Thank you for having me.
Let me give you this award. You needed something to carry on the plane, right?